hope all of you had one amazing adventure out at the Sea Center, Texas, and Lake Jackson. I would like to do a shout out to all of our friends out there in the Sea Center for inviting our Vamos a Pescar families, our grant recipients, to come out to the center to enjoy a day of fishing, to visit their aquarium, to possibly walk their habitat boardwalk, but most importantly, to take that tour of the fishery. Before we went fishing for those ginormous redfish and those black drum and those sheep's head, I asked our families to bring their Zebco Saltfisher inshore spinning combos that were issued to them during our intermediate sessions that we held. So we've been using this product since around March, and we've had a few entanglements, we've had some issues, but that's all about fishing. It's all about understanding your equipment. You're going to have problems during your catching phases, and along the way, we're gonna have some problems. What we did here is we invited all of our families to bring their equipment, and they all spent time removing the monofilament fishing line from their aubers. They were given a homework assignment, or you were given a homework assignment. I gave all the families a spool of Zebco OmniFlex 20-pound test line. So this actually has 250 yards on it. I explained to them that I will send them a video, this one, on how to do this at home. I wanted to see how they can do this as a family when they watch this video, learning from videos, and maybe not just this video, but other videos out there on YouTube and other places, to show them how to get this fishing line and how it's been attached to here. It also has a memory base, so when this line comes off of this spool and you're going to put it on this auger, fishing line comes off of big spools and goes to little spools and then goes to smaller aubers. It's going to have a memory. So when you put this on, and you may be putting it on correctly, when it comes off, you want to put it on the same way as it comes off of here. But we're going to show you how to reboot the fishing line once we get it on the auger. So we're going to learn how to tie the knot, which is called the auger knot. We're going to teach you how to get the line from here to here, where you stop it, how much of this line goes on to here, and then we're going to do some testing on rebooting it. Then when I see you in Galveston, we're going to take a look at the line. We're going to see how you did. So stay tuned. Before we get started in removing our fishing line from our spinning reel, you can also make these same decisions when you're removing your line from spin cast as well as bait cast. When you're removing the monofilament, fluorocarbon, or braided line, we need to understand what we need to do with each one of those types of lines. So today we're going to work on removing the filament from our spinning gear. We've removed the auger, which we unscrew the device that holds the auger on, which is also our drag system. So once we have that off, we can now remove our fishing line, our monofilament fishing line. We now have to understand what to do with this. So once we've removed it either by hand or by a drill or taken it somewhere to have it done, we still have to understand what is our next step. We can put this in the trash can, but if we do, we need to follow this step. Before it goes into the trash, all of this fishing line, be it monofilament, fluorocarbon, braided line, we need to cut it up. Every bit of this needs to be cut up in 6 inches or less segments. Before we throw it away in the trash can, it must be cut up. 6 inches or less is a way that when you put it in there, it does not harm our birds. It does not harm if this gets into the waterways. 6 inches is not going to entangle our fish. But again, that's an option. It's not a good option. The best option is going the recycling method. All over different piers and places, you will see fishing line collection devices. A little bit larger, they look like this. This is just a demo. Our good friends at Texas Sea Grant have done an amazing job to making sure that we understand where these devices are, either outside on fishing piers and parks, or even inside in collection bins, like in Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can also find these in smaller tackle places where they understand how to get this line to a recycle center that goes into a box, and it's a prepaid box from UPS or even Federal Express. And then it is shipped to one of the only companies in the world that knows what to do with fishing line. Now, this never becomes fishing line again. It will never be a nice spool of fishing lines. It will be made or melted down, and the only product that they can really melt down is monofilament. Fluorocarbons takes a higher heat, and it does not get melted down with the monofilament. It gets discarded in another means. We do not want to put any braided lines in these boxes going to Berkeley. We can cut them up in 6 inches, but we need to understand what's the next thing that we are going to do with braided lines. I think we should put them in golf balls, or even the center of baseballs or softballs, and produce them as a recycled ball in our ball sports. So once we have made that decision on which way to go, bad way, better way, then we can start with a clean auger. We have purchased the proper fishing line for our reel. And if you need to know the proper fishing line of that particular reel, be it spinning, bait cast, spin cast, you can find it written on the reel itself, or use the internet, or call the manufacturer and ask them what the best line to put on their particular product. Here in a moment, we will show you how to take this and put it here so you can get back to that. We are now ready to place the new line on our empty spool, or the auger, where we have removed the used fishing line. We can find books from Texas Parks and Wildlife called Learn to Fish, or even in Spanish. You can go to page 12 of these books and learn how to tie the arbor knot. But there are a few more things that we need to understand in tying the arbor knot. We also need to understand the spool, but we also need to keep in mind that recycling also plays a big part when we are replacing the line. And this is called the tag in. when we cut off the tag end from our hooks, as well as the tag end from our auger knot, we don't want those little bitty pieces of fishing line to go flying into our waterways. So we can use or make recycled containers from coffee containers, make a little slits in the top. When we have some smaller discarded line, we can put them in here, or we can put them in Ziploc bags and put them in our tackle boxes. Then the next time that we go to a tackle shop or an Academy Sports and Outdoors that offers a in-store or inside box for monofilament, you can drop them off in there. Or you can go find one of those friendly tubes somewhere that is out in a nature center or out on a fishing pier. Before we get started in learning how to tie the auger knot to get things started, we have to understand the spool. As you can see, or you might not be able to see, the line that is coming off this is kind of curly. So like we said at the beginning, you need to find the way it comes off so you can put the auger into place. So when you're bringing that line, or when you're spooling to the auger from your new spool, the turn is actually coming off of this and turning the same way that you're putting it here. But we are also going to try something here in a little bit called boiling the fishing line or rebooting the fishing line. So let's get started in tying the knot. Now we are all ready to get ready to assemble our spinning reel, but I wanted to get everything laid out in front of me. So when I get started in getting that auger knot tied and getting ready to start the process of putting new line onto the auger or the spool, I have everything in front of me. I have my books, have my line, I have all the pieces to my spinning reel, I have the handle of my spinning rod, I have my trusty scissors, and of course I have my monofilament recycle container that is always with me when we're working with fishing line. To simulate this so you can see it a little bit better, white fishing line or clear fishing line is hard to see. So I got some orange fishing line, some heavier fishing line, so you can kind of see what's going on. But first, let's get everything back together. So we need to put our first note that there's a washer and a gear that make sure you don't lose this. That is what helps everything turn and click properly. So we can take our spool, put it on the shaft, make sure it spins freely, take our locking nut or our drag, and you want to tighten this all the way down. Tighten all the way down. We do not want anything to slip freely when we're putting fishing line back onto the auger or the spool. So here you notice that I'm on this side. I like my handle to turn, hold my dominant hand, my right hand is holding. I like to use my left hand. We always go away from ourselves. There is a switch right here that allows this to go back and forth. A lot of advanced fishermen like to, when they're playing a fish, they don't want to rely on a drag They want to be the drag. So if I'm reeling in a big fish, the fish starts to run, I can go backwards with it. I can then go forward with it. But that's called playing the fish. But with this locked in, it does not go the other way. And we rely on our drag when we are catching that fish, playing that fish. If the fish, kind of like those big redfish that we caught at the Sea Center, where it started taking that drag, that's why we want to be sure that drag is set correctly. Now, if I wanted to hold it in my left hand, my dominant hand, but my crank, you can unscrew this, take this nut out, take the handle out, and put it here, and then readjust the nut. Don't do this. That just looks silly. Do it properly. Take the nut out, move the handle. Well, let's just do that. Let's take the nut out, remove the nut. And again, don't do this over water. Do this over dry land. I can remove the handle, install the handle, make sure it turns, reapply, and rescrew this back in. Make sure that's tight, everything works, you're good. But I like it the other way, so I'm going to put it back, move the handle back in, and place it. Now, I do want to mention that different gear handles come off differently. On different gear, especially saltwater gear, it may not have the switch. Saltwater gear or gear that is made for saltwater. Everything about the gear, be it spin cast, spinning, bait cast, they don't have areas where water can get in. We now want to place it back onto our spinning rod. So we have a reel seat, we have reel feet. Place the heel into the seat, bring the toe down, and then tighten it in place. Now, do not over tighten these. If you over tighten these, you could break or crack the plastic. So now we're ready to apply the line with the auger knot to the auger. So I'm going to simulate this with the colored line. You can see that, the colored line. But before I add the auger knot to the spinning reel, I want to take that working end, take the working end, and I'm going to place it through the first eye. Place it through the first eye. Then we're going to attach it to the spool or the auger. So we're going to lay this down. We're going to open up. We're going to open up the bail. We're going to open up the bail. We're going to take the working end, the short end, the working end. The standing end is what's going up to the eye. So we're going to, if you're right-handed, you're going to hold the line in your right hand. If you're left-handed, you'll hold it in your left hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold it in my right hand. I'm going to come down a little bit and hold the standing end, and then I'm going to place it around the auger or the spool. And what that looks like is this. So we now have the working end on top. I'm holding the standing end, and we're around the auger or the spool. Now we're going to take the working end and we're going to bring it around or under the standing end, over both, and do an overhand knot. Now this is what we are looking at. From here we can tighten the standing end. Once we have the standing or the working end tightly wrapped around the standing end, you can see it slides up and down. I now have to put a stopper knot so it doesn't slip through. So I make another overhand knot, stopper knot, tighten that. So now it should look like this. We can hold the knot or the overhand knot and clip off the tag, making sure we have our bucket ready to drop it in there. Now we're going to release the working end, making sure everything is tight, holding the standing end. We're going to pull. And now that knot should be with the knot that's around the standing end, and that stopper knot is now around the spool and it's not slipping. We close the bail. We make sure everything is in the wheel. And now we can hold the fishing line up here. We can hold the fishing line up here, and we can start the turning process. Okay, so now I have the line on here. As you can tell, it's coming up. You remember when we talked about the loop that's coming, the memory that's coming off of here. We want to be sure when this is coming off to put the line from the spool to the spool, the new spool or the auger. If it's coming and wiggling off, we want to be sure that that line is being placed on the same way it's coming off. So if you hold this out here and you're reeling in, if you have it out here and you're reeling in, it's coming off this spool and going on this spool. And a lot of times you can't notice that. You know, you have to do this a couple of times, but if you just start reeling and you start seeing more curl, just turn the spool. If that helps it out, if that helps all that twist, then leave it there. If not, keep turning. Keep turning. Now we are going to keep doing this until we get to about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, and we're going to stop. Curl's looking okay. May want to flip it over again. Might want to flip it over again. Our finger here is helping to keep the line straight when it's coming onto the new spool. There we go. We can now clip the standing end. Here we can go ahead and rig through the eyes, or we can use this clip right here. So if we keep our line tight, put our thumbnail right below, clip off the excess, put it inside here, and there you go. You're ready to go. You can put this away, or we're going to show you a little bit about how rebooting this line, or if we're going to rig, we can loosen up the drag, open up the bail, pull the line, close, make sure it's in that wheel, and then go through all the eyes. Before we go on to the rebooting of the fishing line, I'd noticed that I may not have made it clear on what we were doing and what we were replacing. I probably talked about it at the event, but it didn't get on this video. What comes on the Zebco Salt Fisher Inshore is a 12-pound test line. What we are respooling is a 20-pound test line with almost the same diameter as the 12-pound that was on there. Now, we elected to do 12-pound test line of where we're going fishing in Galveston. Where we're fishing is a lot of riprap, a lot of oyster beds. Yes, we could tie a nice leader on there and probably get away with it, but since we have new families, we want to put a heavier line on there for the abrasion, the cutting, possibly 12-pound test line getting cut by the oyster beds. So again, I just want to be sure that in this next segment, you'll see 12-pound, 20-pound. 12-pound is what was on there. 20-pound test line is what we respooled. Okay, we have our boiling water. This pot is really hot, so I'm using a mitten. I am also going to get my grabbers if I need those later. But I'm going to put these in. And again, we never want to put our spools or our aubers from the spinning into boiling water that is still on the stove with a flame. If you're going to do it in your kitchen, boil the water, turn the stove off so there's no fire directly underneath here. We're going to do this upside down. So we're going to take, we've marked the one that we've respooled with 20-pound. If I place it like this, you'll notice that it will fill up itself and take it to the bottom. That way you won't splash the hot water on you. So again, here's the 12-pound. We're going to do this to see if we can't reset or reboot that line. The idea here is to let the water cool down to touch. And then we'll take it out and see how it did. But while we're waiting, we can discuss a little bit about what to do with our spool of fishing line that we're not going to use, or if we have more, we can, spool up another one. If you're starting to see through the monofilament, the inner spool or the inner auger, then I would just recycle this whole thing. Just take the entire spool, drop it off at one of those indoor cycle centers, recycle centers like Academy, and they can also recycle the plastic that is on the spool as well. But if we have enough, we can still use it for leader. You know, if we're going out, this is 20-pound test line. This is a great leader line. So you can, you know, do that, make that leader like we did at Sea Center, Texas. But we can't really just put this, well, we could put it in our tackle box and it will just get all over the place. So there's a couple of ways that you can remedy that. I like using these hair ties on bobbers that I'm no longer using. I find that tag end or the working end. I put the hair tie around there, and there we go. Now that line is locked in there. I can also pull some line off if I need it for a leader. There's another way. You're recycling your dip cans or sour cream cans, whatever fits. Label side up. We have our working or our tag in. We can pop a hole into the lid, bring it through, place that lid securely, and there we go. Now as we need leader line, we can cut it, make new leaders like that chicken rig that we saw or we did when we were last together. I'm going to recycle this. Or this is a newer way, and I think it's really kind of cool to show you other ways to reuse, repurpose, and that is old socks. Old socks are great. You can cut off or you can leave them on. I don't think it really hurts. I elect to cut mine. These are my Corgi pizza socks. Put the whole spool into your socks, or in this case, Corgi pizza socks, and that keeps it all together. And I could find the end here, keep it out a little bit, and as I need leader, I can pull it out, cut it, make me a leader, put this back. And if I left a sock together and I maybe had another sock that I use for a different size, I now have 2 pairs of dry socks in my tackle box. So we're gonna wait for this water to get cool, and I'll be back with you shortly. Well, welcome back. It's been about 30-35 minutes. Water is cool to the touch. This is our 20-pound test line that we just put on, and this is the original 12. We're going to see if the rebooting helped. A lot of times when they put fishing line on units or equipment that you buy in stores, you really don't know how long this fishing line has been sitting on this auger when it's been pre-spooled at the manufacturer. So let's take a look at this. We're gonna get rid of our water. Go over there and water some plants. And let's take a look at it. Let's get all the water out. You'll see that didn't really hurt the grease in here. So we don't have to re-grease anything. So let's take a look at the 12-pound and see if it did anything. It's not too bad. In time, it'll straighten out. That looks a lot better than what it did look like. We'll put that back on. Again, putting our fingernail in there, clipping it closed. Now let's take a look at our 20-pound test line. It still has some curl, but it's not enough I'm really worried about. So there, the rebooting kind of worked. So it's up to you if you want to try that. But anyway, there's also another product out there by Vicious Fishing, which is the fishing line that we use on all of our training equipment. They came out with a line and lure conditioner that you can order. So you can just take this if you're having some problems. Kind of spray it on there. Work it in. Look at that. Wow. That looks like it did really well. It actually did that really quick. So again, two methods. The reboot method, you want to try that. Or purchasing a line and lure conditioner from our good friends at Vicious Fishing. I hope this video has helped you or will help you getting the 20-pound monofilament fishing line back onto your Zebco inshore salt fisher. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again in Galveston and showing me how you did. But anyway, if you have any questions, reach out to me. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you back in Galveston. We're doing the hook it to cook it. So we need good working gear to try to catch some of those fish. And we also have that special guest coming in there to help us look at crabbing and maybe even have a shrimp or a crab boil. So anyway, if you need any information, give me a holler. Until then, good fishing, tight lines, and we'll talk to you soon.